Thank you very much. I was asked by one of the TV crews here today about who are the people involved in the Tea Party movement. And I said, well, they're people that have studied history. I said they understand John Adams, they know the significance of the Revolution, they know how important it is to look at the founding documents. I want to take just a couple of minutes with you because this really defines who you are and why you are not a minority force in America. You are the majority force because you're following the dictates of the conscious people who founded this country. The Glorious Revolution of England in 1689 set out to prove one thing, that Parliament was to be recognized as a sovereign source of law in England. This did not rub too well with the people who eventually would be the scribblers of the Declaration and the Constitution. And the colonists were satisfied to be the loyal Brits because of the extent of trade that was going on, the tremendous amount of freedom, until the French Indian War came along about 20 years before the Revolution. And then the Townshend Acts, followed by the Stamp Act, were imposed by the Parliament as a tax upon Americans to pay for that war. The Americans said, wait, just a second. We're not represented in Parliament. We have nobody there or a colleague. We're not recognized in Parliament, and so why should we have to pay this tax? And so in the Boston Harbor in 1773, a bunch of patriots like yourself, many college educated, decided enough was enough, and they boarded the English ships and dumped overboard 342 chests of tea that soon would brew in the Boston Harbor. And that was your first cup of tea. So you're not original, except in thought. The people who really sat down to decide how to do this government, how to make a new government charter. In fact, William Flexner, in his book, The Indispensable Washington, talks about something that was extraordinary in Philadelphia in 1787. He said, for the first time in history, people decided to draft a document and agree to live under its terms. And so the revolution continues. It has never really stopped. In fact, when you take a look at one of John Adams's great documents, he said, to form and establish the wisest and happiest government that human wisdom can contrive is the goal of the Constitution. In such governments, they had to be Republican in form and principle. They had to draw their authority from the people, yet at the same time be so balanced as to prevent the people from misusing their power. The latter, of course, is a democracy. We have abject rule, such as took place with the Jacobites in the failed French Revolution. So, I feel very comfortable being here with you because as a student of American history, you guys present nothing new. But it's so refreshing that you remember what took place back then in 1776. When the war had gone on for 13 months. And a bunch of people got together, executed the Declaration of Independence, knowing it would be a death warrant to all who signed it, and declared war on a nation that had the mightiest navy in the world at a time that the colonies did not have one ship. You can follow the history, I'm sure you have, as to the tremendous victories that took place at Trenton, and then at Princeton, and then at Yorktown at the end of the war. You know, this country just did not arise out of the fact that some people got together and said, we're going to have a social experiment. We're going to deal in theories. But it's people who really understood the nature of freedom. And people who also recognize the fact that we're a nation that knows our liberties come from God.
That's
not
right.
from the doctrine and And that the purpose of government is to protect those liberties. And the purpose of people is to rise up to get elected to government to protect those liberties. I remember one time things were going nuts in Congress, which happens all the time. I got in my car and I drove out to the Jefferson Memorial. And those of you who have been there, if you stand right in front of them, there are 4 tablets. And the tablet to me that's the most impressive is the one immediately to his right. It says, God who gave us life gave us freedom. Can the liberties of a nation be thought secure when we remove so firm a conviction that these liberties are the gift of God? That's Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson. These guys always got it. They always understood the reason for this republic. And so I welcome the tremendous rebirth of the thoughts and intentions and desires and hearts of the American founders. Just close your eyes and you can envision that you were there during those meetings. And you were there when the Declaration of Independence was read in town hall meetings. And you were there for various debates concerning the adoption of the original Constitution. And you were there when the Bill of Rights was fought out. And you were there when people took a look at the various amendments and said, are these what we need in order to protect our liberties? We've done pretty well as a nation, but we're under tremendous pressure right now. People who do not understand the basics of liberty. People who say that the liberties come from government. We should have to do obeisance to government in order to protect those liberties. I totally reject that. I'm not going to worship government. That's wrong. What we're doing, where I spend my time in Congress, is trying to get us back to where we were back then. Sure, times have changed dramatically, but sometimes you come along, here's a bill, H.R. 4946. This bill allows standing in courts for state government officials to challenge proposed regulations in the federal courts. And what it means is that every time you see a right of the Constitution under present law, it does not necessarily mean you have the right to enforce that. What this does is this gives enforcement powers to the rights limited in the Constitution, and it allows state authorities to use the 10th Amendment, which protects the states, to sue the federal government and say, you're overreaching your federal authority, get out of the state. This is the type of legislation that you have to have some semblance of American history in order just to understand. I want to bring up one other thing as to how things go wrong in Congress. Maybe I don't need to talk about it, but I think it's necessary. There was a bill that called a Home Star Energy Retrofit Act. And what this was, they called the cash for cars. And I got into reading this bill. It's not too long as far as bills are concerned, but by the time you get through it, it says that each state has to have a commission of investigators, of bureaucrats, to make sure they visit these homes where the individuals say, we spent X amount of money buying insulation, for example. You can only write off the insulation if it's of such thickness and covers a certain amount in your house. But there has to be this whole slew of state investigators that can charge up to $75 per visit. Come on, you guys. In the last 2 years, 180,000 federal government employees have been added. 180,000. How many millions of jobs have we lost in the private sector? And they keep on, it's going to take 13,000 new federal employees at IRS just to be able to monitor who's in compliance with insurance once that monster of a bill kicks in. You don't recover an economy by hiring bureaucrats. It doesn't work that way. And you don't recover an economy from throwing money at different programs. We have to restart manufacturing and get supply chains going. Let the economy recover itself. So I just wanted to bring that with you because people have all kinds of great ideas, and you know what? I think people are just shut up. People in Congress are just shut up and say, you know what this place needs is what happened last winter. You know, there was a glorious week in winter in Washington. I was here, and Frida was trapped out in Washington, and she said down 55 inches of snow. It fell in 10 days. And she said, I can't find your car. It's a Ford Focus, and it's small as it is. And I said, you know what? For 1 week, the American people were spared more government and more taxes. And I said, you know, we need more. But anyway, what we're doing here